Every year, millions of engines overheat without warning. The dashboard lights flash, the temperature gauge climbs, and before you know it, the repair bill hits thousands. Most drivers blame bad luck or an old radiator. But what if the real cause is something far simpler, hidden deep inside your cooling system? The truth is, 40% of engine failures aren't from poor maintenance. They're from maintenance done wrong. And here's the scary part. You might be doing everything your manual tells you to, yet still be slowly killing your engine. The real reason most cooling systems fail isn't just about old coolant or a bad hose. It's about chemistry, pressure, and a few forgotten habits that quietly destroy your car from the inside out. These small details can mean the difference between a cooling system that dies at 100,000 miles or one that lasts for 500,000. But once you understand what's really happening under your hood, you'll see why most mechanics never talk about this, and how a few simple changes can make your cooling system practically indestructible. Most drivers believe their car's cooling system is fine, as long as the temperature gauge stays in the middle. They top off the coolant every now and then, maybe check for leaks and assume everything's under control. But what if I told you that confidence is exactly what leads to most engine failures? Nearly 40% of breakdowns happen because of cooling system problems. And the shocking part is, they often start long before you ever see smoke or warning lights. A single wrong coolant mix, a slightly weak radiator cap, or even regular tap water can silently destroy your system from the inside out. By the time you notice the problem, the damage has already been done. The truth is, your cooling system doesn't fail overnight. It slowly gives up. Tiny air pockets, rust deposits, and chemical imbalances work together like hidden assassins, wearing down every hose, clamp, and seal. Each mile you drive pushes it closer to failure, yet the signs are so subtle that even seasoned mechanics often miss them. But here's the good news. Once you understand how these problems start, you can stop them entirely. In this video, we'll uncover the overlooked habits that ruin cooling systems, expose the myths mechanics never correct, and show you the exact steps that can make yours last forever. Overheating doesn't begin with clouds of smoke or a flashing red light on your dashboard. It begins quietly, with chemistry. The moment you pour the wrong coolant into your system, or mix brands thinking it's all the same, the protective additives inside start to break down. These additives are what keep your radiator, water pump, and engine passages from corroding. Once they weaken, tiny particles of rust start forming. They cling to the inside walls of your radiator, slowing down the coolant flow just a little more with each drive. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but your engine temperature is already running hotter than it should. Then comes the second silent mistake: water. Many drivers top off their coolant with tap water, not realizing it's filled with minerals like calcium and magnesium. Over time, those minerals crystallize inside your radiator and water pump, forming a layer of scale that blocks heat transfer. Think of it like cholesterol in an artery. The more buildup, the less your cooling system can breathe. Once that balance is lost, pressure inside the system starts to spike, and seals begin to weaken. By the time the temperature gauge moves even slightly past normal, the damage is already spreading through the entire cooling loop. And that's the moment when the clock starts ticking, because every degree above normal brings your engine closer to a complete breakdown. At first, everything seems perfect. The temperature gauge stays steady, the coolant looks bright, and the car runs smoothly. So you assume your cooling system is doing its job. That's the illusion. Modern cars are designed to hide small temperature fluctuations, meaning your engine can be running 10 or even 20 degrees hotter than normal, without you ever knowing. Those normal readings on the dash, they're averaged out to stop drivers from panicking. So while the display looks stable, the metal inside your engine is expanding and contracting more than it should, slowly wearing down gaskets, seals, and bearings. And this false sense of security is what traps most people. They trust that silence means safety. But the truth is, by the time a car actually shows signs of overheating, like steam, a temperature spike, or a sweet smell from under the hood, the system has already been struggling for months. Corrosion has begun, coolant additives have turned acidic, and the radiator's internal channels are partially blocked. The system still works, but it's hanging on by a thread. That's why drivers are always caught off guard, because by the time you see the problem, it's already too late to prevent it. But the real turning point comes when this invisible stress finally shows itself. And when it does, it hits fast and hard. It always starts small. Maybe your heater stops blowing hot air on cold mornings. Maybe you notice the temperature needle dancing slightly during traffic, then settling down once you start moving again. These aren't random quirks, they're warnings. They mean air pockets have formed somewhere in your cooling system, blocking coolant from circulating properly. Every time that happens, a part of your engine runs hotter than the rest. Over time, that uneven heat begins to warp metal, weaken gaskets, and stress the radiator beyond what it was designed to handle. And yet most people ignore these signs. They think a little fluctuation is normal, or they blame the weather. But what's really happening is a chain reaction. As the coolant degrades, its boiling point drops. The radiator cap, designed to hold a specific pressure, starts to weaken, allowing vapor to escape. That vapor turns into air pockets, and those air pockets trigger more overheating. It's a vicious cycle that no one sees coming until it's too late. Then one day, the warning light flashes, the hood starts to steam, and your engine, the very heart of your car, is fighting for its life. But even then, there's still one final mistake that can turn a small overheating issue into a total engine disaster. When the engine overheats, panic sets in, and that's when most people make their worst mistake. They pop the hood, see the coolant bubbling, and immediately open the radiator cap. It feels like the right thing to do, but it's actually one of the fastest ways to destroy your engine. The moment that cap comes off, pressure drops instantly, and the boiling coolant erupts like a geyser. That sudden temperature shock can crack the radiator or even warp the cylinder head. Yet somehow, this myth, that you should let it cool by opening the cap, still spreads like wildfire among drivers. Then there's the second myth: just add more coolant. Many drivers top it off and keep driving, thinking the problem's solved. But topping off a system that's already contaminated or low on pressure doesn't fix anything. It just hides the real issue for a few more miles. The wrong coolant mix or leftover air pockets can lead to what mechanics call thermal runaway, where heat builds faster than the system can handle. And once that happens, no amount of fresh coolant will save it. The radiator melts from the inside, the thermostat locks shut, and your engine, worth thousands, is reduced to scrap. These myths aren't just wrong, they're responsible for millions of dollars in damage every year. But the story doesn't end there, because a handful of mechanics have figured out how to stop these failures before they ever begin. Once a car overheats, most people assume the damage is permanent. But the truth is, if you act early and do it right, you can save the entire system, and even make it stronger than before. The first step isn't topping up coolant, it's cleansing the system from the inside. A proper coolant flush removes the buildup of rust, scale and sludge that choke your radiator's passages. When done right, it restores flow and heat transfer almost instantly. Most drivers skip this, but it's the foundation of long-term engine health. A clean system runs cooler, more efficiently, and with less strain on every component connected to it. Next comes the thermostat, one of the most underestimated parts of the cooling system. It controls the flow of coolant through your engine, yet it's often ignored until it fails. Smart drivers replace it every few years, long before it gets stuck open or closed. Then they check the radiator cap, that small spring-loaded piece that controls system pressure. A worn cap might look fine, but even a tiny pressure drop can cause boiling at lower temperatures. Together, these steps create a perfect balance of flow, pressure and temperature. That balance is what separates a car that struggles past 100,000 miles from one that runs flawlessly for $500,000. But the smartest drivers go even further. They don't just maintain their cooling system, they protect it from the inside out. Ask 10 mechanics how to keep your engine cool, and most will give you the same checklist. Flush the coolant, check the hoses, replace the thermostat. But a few seasoned pros know the little details that make a cooling system truly bulletproof. The first trick: bleeding the air pockets. Every time you flush or top off coolant, small bubbles get trapped inside the system. Those bubbles block circulation, causing hot spots that can't be detected on your dashboard gauge. The fix is simple but often skipped. Park on an incline, let the engine warm up with the heater on full blast, and wait until the bubbles stop rising. It's a trick that takes minutes, but can prevent thousands in repairs. Then there's a secret test that even professional shops forget: the radiator temperature check. With a simple infrared thermometer, you can scan across your radiator's surface. If one section is noticeably cooler than the others, you've got a clog forming inside, the early sign of a dying radiator. Catch it early, and you can flush it clean instead of replacing the whole thing. And here's one more. Always use distilled water, not tap. It may sound trivial, but the minerals in tap water can turn into scale, cutting your radiator's lifespan in half. These are the kinds of details you won't hear in quick oil change shops or dealership service centers, because they're not in the manual. They're passed down from experience. But when you follow them, your cooling system doesn't just last longer. It becomes nearly unstoppable. And that brings us to the final question. Every driver eventually faces: how long can any system truly last? In the end, keeping your cooling system alive isn't about expensive parts or fancy additives. It's about respect. Every seal, hose, and drop of coolant in your car is part of a delicate chain reaction that depends on balance. The moment you understand that balance, you stop treating maintenance as a chore and start seeing it as protection. Because the truth is, most engines don't die from hard driving or bad luck. They die from neglect hidden behind good intentions. A little shortcut here, a missed flush there, and before long, the system that was built to protect your engine becomes the very thing that destroys it. But it doesn't have to end that way. If you use the right coolant, keep the system clean, and check the simple things most people ignore: the radiator cap, the thermostat, the air pockets, your car's cooling system can outlive the engine itself. It's not a miracle, it's science done right. So the next time you pop the hood and look at that coolant reservoir, remember this: the difference between a car that fails at 100,000 miles and one that lasts 500,000 isn't luck, it's knowledge. And now that you know, your car's cooling system doesn't have to be another story of failure. It can be the reason your engine runs like new for years to come.